Welcome back, my awesome people. Today, I am honored to be with Si Katara, CEO of Tapp Alpha. This is his third time on this channel. Many of you have requested him back on with all the knowledge and wisdom that he's given us in the previous two interviews. And he has some major news that he will be telling us. Hey, maybe the first time in the digital world, he'll be telling us no other person may even know about this. So stay tuned. Get your pens and pad ready and get ready to write down what's going on because I'm interested and I'm sure you will be interested as well. So Si, welcome back. How are you doing today?
Jacob, great to be back. Third time's a charm. You were one of my earliest conversations, and a lot has changed over the last 6.5 months. So happy to be back with you to give you some updates.
Definitely. And just from our pre-talk before this interview, I'm so interested in diving in deeper into what you have to tell me and my viewers. And I know your fund has been accelerating at a tremendous growth. Hopefully it's due to this channel, but I'm sure so many other factors as well. So to get right into it, for those that did not see the first two interviews, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what inspired you to start Tapp Alpha, and about its history and maybe core mission?
Yeah, thank you. So I came from a technology background, different world. I ended up leaving kind of a technology startup that I founded to come and actually start Tapp Alpha. But I started it because of a need that I had in my own life. In the transition, I was trying to figure out, hey, how do I make ends meet? And this was in October of 2022 when the markets were down. So I didn't want to have to sell my SPY shares. So I used a covered call strategy. But the new thing that happened at that time was short dated. So zero DTE covered calls just became available. So I started to do it. And the income that was generated during the time the market was down covered the lion's share of our family's mortgage, which was such a financial relief. But the challenge was it just took a lot of time every day. So I ended up writing some technology to help me do it. Took 3.5 hours of management doing the strategy every day down to under 5 minutes. And then I was like, oh man, how do I get this out to the world? Learned about ETFs. And so took that strategy, wrapped it in an ETF and delivered it to the market. So we've been up and running T-SPY since August 15th of 2024. So it's been about 6.5, 7 months now. Been growing the fund ever since. It's performing well. But Jacob was one of the first ones I had conversations with. And I think a lot of the viewers here have invested in and are supporting the fund. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And hopefully it's delivering the value that you were hoping for.
It definitely has been delivering the value, and my viewers, a lot of them are dividend distribution, income generation type of viewers. So with your amazing fintech technology that you use for your ETFs, they're maximizing their gains. So we love to hear that type of strategy. And so for Tapp Alpha, your primary investment strategy is a daily covered call strategy. Can you just tell us more about that? How does it work, especially for those that don't know what covered calls are or what a daily covered call is?
Yeah, so daily covered calls, basically what a covered call is if you own stock, you can actually get more potential value out of that stock if you sell what's called a call against it. And basically the idea is the analogy that we use sometimes is if you own a property and on that property there's a separate unit, the whole property value over time can potentially go up. But that unit, if it's not being used, isn't helping you generate income. And so if you rented it out, you can actually generate a little bit of additive income on top of the capital growth of the property that you have. That's the analogy with owning SPY shares and then renting out a little portion of it in order to generate income. So we're doing this, but the new thing was we're doing it every day. And that has, some big benefits. The first one is if you do it every day, it expires the same day. So you're only in the trading window with your option for the 6.5 hours of the trading day. That's really valuable because when the markets close, a lot of times markets will go up. And when they do, your option position is sort of risk off. So you can take advantage of the market growth overnight without having to manage the risk of your option because it's closed for that period of time. So that makes risk mitigation a lot more manageable. And then the second thing, zero-day options have become unbelievably popular. They're more than 50% of the options that are traded on the S&P 500 in the US are 0-day. So the market for it is huge. So if you're selling them, you can get 4 to 4.5 times the premiums for the same level of risk that you would a traditional longer dated option strategy. So basically the risk-adjusted returns are just much more. It's better money for the risk that you take. And then the last thing, because you're sort of doing this every day, you get a chance to adjust where the markets are going up and the markets are going down. You can sort of closer track the growth trends of the underlying security. And so if you were like me, where I'm a long-term buy and hold investor and I want the benefit of, the long-term returns of the market, you can mirror that, but you can use this to generate some additive income, which is helpful right now, for example, because that additive income can be a little bit of a downside cushion when markets are sort of giving a drawdown like they are now. So there's a lot of benefits to these types of strategies for investors that it's appropriate for.
And I mean, I think these strategies are definitely amazing. As you said, right now, the S&P, the whole market as a whole, crypto, everything is just kind of on a downturn. And of course, my viewers, if you're not into options, you don't know how to do options, this is definitely a great option, no pun on the word,
No pun
to
intended.
be exposed to that more complex type of strategy. And Si, not only are you using the daily covered call option, but you also have some amazing technology that enhances and improves the efficiency, especially for your flagship ETF, T-SPY. And there is another ETF that you're going to tell us a little bit more later. But how does AI utilize the Tapp Alpha platform?
Yeah, so when you're doing these strategies and like implementing it every day, it takes a lot of time. And the other thing is there's so much data that comes in, and it comes in fast. You think about news announcements. You think about when is there a planned event like a Fed rate conversation. You think about CPI, also like volumes, and there's risk numbers and all these calculations that can come in. So me as like an individual human brain trying to do all the math to be like, hey, what's the risk? It's hard. And so that's where the automation and the fintech comes in, because it can take all that stuff in real time and just give me as the portfolio manager just an easy, hey, here's the risk, here's reward. But it's running on real time data. And then as markets change, it's really important to feed that back in so that you can tighten the parameters and the rules. So it's constantly getting better and better and better and learning. And markets are changing. Like the market right now is very different than the market a year ago. So what the risk profile would have been with the data set then isn't the same risk profile now. Got to be able to factor that stuff in. So we automated a lot of that just to give a much clearer decision point on risk reward. And my job as a portfolio manager is to take positions that are in the risk profile of the fund, which is kind of low to moderate. So we are now like, there's tons of volatility. Well, there's two ways to play that. One, the premiums that you can go collect for income are way bigger. So I have a choice. Do I go and actually try and capture more premiums, but then I still have risk that we're going to lose the capital growth? Or do I use that premium to give myself more headroom? So we've got a bigger safety net so we can still ride the capital growth of the underlying, but then still hit our income goals. And that's what we do in T-SPY. In our funds, we use that volatility to give ourselves a bit of a safety cushion so we stay well within the risk profile of the fund. But all that stuff is hard to do manually. The tech helps us do it, helps us improve. And that's, I think, why you're seeing some of the performance outcomes that we've been able to achieve with the fund.
I definitely agree with you on that. AI is definitely a game changer. Like even me personally, a year ago, I was not using AI at all. Like, of course, when I say AI, I'm talking about ChatGPT. So just analyzing fundamentals records. Sometimes I might even just input which is a better buy depending on their last recent report. And it just hashes through thousands of documents and data. And so I'm sure you guys are doing it at a 10x, 100x type of level. And so AI definitely is a game changer in the investing world. So your flagship ETF, T-SPY, can you tell us more about that? And then right after, tell us about this new ETF that you're coming out with, because I'm highly interested in that. And I'm sure my viewers, especially if you're a techie, you will definitely be interested in that as well.
It's been, the momentum has been fantastic and the market response. And I just want to say a huge thank you to your viewers, the folks that have been supporting the ETF from the beginning. So when we first came on, I think about 6 months ago, the ETF was just getting out of the gate. So we had maybe 3 or 4 million in our fund, first time issue or first time fund. Now, fast forward to today, about 6.5 months in, we just broke through the 25 million in AUM marker, and we're sitting at about 30 million in AUM. So that growth, I think, is a testament to sort of the forward-thinking view of viewers that you have that are interested in new strategies because new tools are available, and have been supporting the fund. So just a huge thank you to the folks that believed in it from the beginning. The momentum is really a testament to that. And then because we're starting to see this excitement build around zero-day funds and around the fintech piece, and especially in markets like this where people are like, well, I believe in the long-term trajectory of the market, but what do I do in the short term? Short term is going to work itself out, but do you have the tools to go harvest that volatility? T-SPY gives you one sort of option for that, no pun intended. But the cool thing about it is this strategy on the S&P 500, that options piece can be applied almost to any security. So announcing once T-SPY hits 50 million in AUM, which since we're at 30 and are growing quickly, hopefully it's soon, we're going to launch our second ETF called TDAQ, which is the exact same strategy, but it's on the NASDAQ 100. So people that love that security as well as part of their portfolios will be able to take advantage of the income generation, the volatility padding, the lower beta. Our beta is about a 0.83. You get those things in the convenience and the package of an ETF. So that'll be round two, but none of this would have happened without the support of the viewers that are getting value out of this. And the other thing that's really important to us is feedback. Like, give feedback on the things that you like, the things that you don't, what you're looking for, because that helps us drive and make decisions. Because our goal is to make sure we're providing tools that help you hit your goals. And that's the name of the game. So just huge thank you to the viewers and to Jacob for having me on. It's been a fun 6.5 months and couldn't do without your support.
And you know what? Thank you for being on this channel as many times as you have, and I'm sure there'll be many more as well because when you're starting a new fund, you're probably no time to even sleep or eat. You're probably busy, busy, busy. And so just by looking at those two ETFs that you have, not only are they game changers, but they are giving the modern investor, the younger generation of investors, a different non-traditional way of investing. Maybe if you saw maybe 20, 30 years ago, the whole 20% mutual bonds, 30% treasuries, 40% stocks. And that was the game plan, the blueprint. But now, you have covered call strategies, you have leverages, you have options, ETFs especially are growing a lot more. So I think, firms like yourself, CEOs like yourself who are breaking those barriers are making a much difference to the modern investor, to the younger generation of investors. And I actually interviewed Matthew Tuttle of Tuttle Capital a
Nice,
few
yeah.
days ago. And I saw T-SPY was in his firm as well. And I asked him about it and he loves it. So how did that relationship work out? How did you guys get together? Because that's actually really cool.
Yeah, so Tuttle actually is part of the reason that we're in the ETF world. So when I was trying to figure out how to get this to market, I was like, I'm going to create a fintech company where you can log into a web-based software and connect it to your brokerage account and run this on whatever. But then I ended up talking to Matt and his partner Pete, business partner Pete, and they were like, you can actually take this strategy and wrap it inside an ETF. Let us show you how to do it. So they kind of took me under their wing and shared with me and got me connected to all these partners and people that could actually help us take this idea and bring it to market in an ETF. So Matt and Pete and the trading team over at Tuttle have been a critical part of helping us get it launched. And then they're our trading sub-advisor. So like when I make a position for the day, I hit a button and it's Matt's team that actually goes and executes the trades and does all of the compliance back-end work and custodian work too as well. So we work super close together, and we wouldn't have been able to launch T-SPY without Matt and his team.
I mean, that's great to hear because he's also a trailblazer, just like yourself, just breaking barriers. Like I've seen some of his ETFs, like, the inverse Kramer. I mean, we've been following that for years. Every time Kramer said something, we would do the opposite. And so it was actually really, really cool. So just gonna kind of pivot to AI. How do you see the role of AI evolving in the fintech space? I know you have this amazing technology for your ETFs, but just in general, do you think that fintech might move from centralized to maybe decentralized eventually, or is it going to stay in the centralized section?
I think long term there's a huge value for the DeFi movement. and decentralization with respect to how technologies are communicating and put together. I think AI just generally as a concept, whenever I hear AI, I just think massive productivity gain. And that has impacts on everything with respect to operating efficiency, growth trajectories. So, for example, in my case, starting a small fintech company that's also an ETF issuer, like you'd probably need a team of maybe 6, 8, 10 people. But
Wow.
because of AI's role, because of the efficiencies we get, we have a super lean team, and then we're able to leverage the distributed sort of efficiency of good outsourced talent. But the core to build the tech, the core to get the sort of learning mechanisms put in place, all that has really been leveraging the power of AI. I was lucky because this was October of 22 when I first learned about zero DTE, and I had sort of transitioned to the new company. And guess what came out in November of 22? ChatGPT. So on day
Ah.
one, we were using it, and it was just remarkable with respect to the speed that we could innovate and implement. And it's just getting better and better and faster and faster. And so I think that's what you're going to see. And people are kind of scared of AI. They're like, what's the implication? But right now, it's really just this massive productivity gain and booster that can help in any business that you have, even strategically, even if it's a hands-on construction business. There's ways that AI can help you move more quickly through the processes that are there. So it's kind of a magic moment in the history of productivity.
Oh, 100%. It's just like the dot-com era where some people only use it for emails, but some people took it upon themselves to further advance the internet. And look at us now. We pretty much live with it. Without I mean, if there was ever an internet shutdown, I don't even know what people will do. It will just be a scramble. So do you think that because right now with AI, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and all these others, right now they just kind of go through countless data. They can't really make any real predictions. But do you think there will be a time where you can just type in what do you think T-SPY will look like in 3 years, or what do you think this TDAQ will look like in 2 years? Do you think AI will get to the point where it's actually making intelligent predictions and inferencing of investing?
You ready for the mind-blowing combination? When you take AI, but then you combine it with quantum computing, it's those predictions are really about probabilities. So what's super interesting, I think, about the quantum movement also is that traditional hardware, when it comes to the things that we're running right now, all of our computing on, is binary, zeros and ones, deterministic. It's A and B. But what's interesting about quantum is that it's way faster with probabilistic outcomes. And that's what financial markets are. That's what so many parts of life are probabilistic outcomes. So when you take the ability for AI to start to leverage quantum computing, those things, you will get unbelievable computing power, really quick processing time, and then you'll get prediction models that were never possible before because the base technology wasn't there. So the next 5 years are going to be wild. And just look at how quickly the evolutions are occurring. They're going to get faster and faster and bigger and bigger. So just hold on to your hats because it's going to be a fun evolution over the next 5, 10 years.
100%. I actually agree with that because ChatGPT came out in 22. A couple years later, now we have all these different alternatives to ChatGPT, and quantum is revolutionizing everything. Microsoft just came out with theirs about a month ago. China
Mm-hmm.
is, just I don't even know what they're doing, but they're doing some incredible things as well. So do you think when we talk about Tapp Alpha, how does Tapp Alpha adapt its strategy? So the cover call strategy or any other strategy that you might come down the road with this volatile market conditions. I know it's amazing for the premiums, but what other things could possibly benefit Tapp Alpha in a volatile market like right now?
Yeah, it's basically like it's kind of taking, you've got these inputs and little signals that come in from the market that you're getting hints from, and you can see patterns emerge. And that's, I think, the thing about AI that's really interesting and powerful. Like if you're a person looking at all this stuff, it just looks like noise. But AI can actually help you see the string or the pattern or the thing that you need to recognize in order to make a decision that you couldn't see without it. So it's almost like this lens, and it provides you the ability to interpret that information in a way that you couldn't without it. And so those are the things that we are really focused on staying tied into. And the more history and the more data that you have, the tighter your decisions can be, because you can see patterns to say, this is highly unlikely that this is going to go against you. So I feel comfortable taking a position here versus, oh, there were patterns in the past that said this may actually happen at a higher probability. So maybe that's outside of what I'm comfortable doing. It's those types of things that AI will help us really tighten. And this is one strategy that AI innovation and technology can really help bring to the market. And that's the whole point of our company. How do you make powerful strategies accessible to everyone? And AI is a huge part of how we end up bringing that to market.
It is. And do you think Tapp Alpha might eventually have DeFi products? Because I do believe T-SPY and TDAQ are currently fintech focused products, correct?
Yeah, fintech focused products. I think part of the process can leverage DeFi. So one example I give is when you make one trade in an ETF, there are so many parties that need to see that trade, and it all has to be verified and validated. So if you have a sort of decentralized mechanism, it can take the time to get this sequential process down to fraction of the time. And so decentralizing the clearing and compliance sides are an obvious application of sort of decentralized technologies. But there's so many different ways to use it. I love to focus on what's the problem that you're solving, and then decentralized technologies, DeFi, could be really powerful to solve those specific problems. That's one we deal with every day, just in executing an ETF on the market.
Yeah, because everybody's talking about DeFi, blockchain, and so on. And of course, it's all no institutions involved, not really hands-on involved. It's its own entity. So when we look at the sustainability and ethical considerations of not only Tapp Alpha but just any business model, do you personally, or even Tapp Alpha, do you guys follow or go with the ESG movement? I know a lot of companies hate the ESG because it's about profit. It's not about moral ethics. What's Tapp Alpha's take on that?
Well, we're creating products that ultimately are here to support the people with the challenges that can take benefit from them. ESG is a huge opportunity, I think, and like I said, we have one fund now, but the methods, the tools, the things that we use are applicable to almost any strategy and any outcome. It's just trying to find the ones that our user base, our clients, our customers that'll resonate with. So it's interesting you mentioned like Matt from Tuttle and his team. One of the reasons why I think we're a good complementary set is because Matt is way more cutting edge from a risk perspective in the products that he provides to the market with levered funds and single stock, capabilities. It's not, and for us, Tapp Alpha is a way more conservative. It caters to a way more conservative kind of user. And that's where I think we would never compete, because a lot of the funds that we would provide, Matt wouldn't, and vice versa. And so it's really a matter of finding the who that the products that Tapp Alpha resonates with, which is, it's for people that have low to moderate conservative risk profiles that sort of need to solve specific problems. In my case, it was income. I needed to check the box without having to liquidate stock. In other cases, it's people that need to mitigate risk. In other cases, it's people that, if you're nervous about these volatile markets, how do you smooth out the ride? Those are the problems that we're solving directly. I think ESG is something downstream we can support, but ultimately it's really like, what do the people that connect with us need, and how can we help solve those challenges? That's the whole goal of the business.
And you know what? At this time in society, being a conservative investor is definitely key, because a lot of people are pulling out of the riskier investments and going into more of a safer investment. Like I think gold is almost hitting its all-time high of all time. Mm-hmm. So, it just makes sense, because right now it's so uncertain. And I guess you just answered my next question. I was going to ask, how does Tapp Alpha differentiate itself from other fintech projects? And so I guess you said it's more conservative. But maybe if you want to add any more points to that. So there's a lot of fintech projects out there. A lot of firms are in that space. But with Tapp Alpha's technology, strategy, of course, management team, how else do you maybe differentiate yourself?
I think one of the key things that we really try to do is be really transparent. Like anything that folks want to know about how we operate the fund, the why behind it, the what are we trying to deliver? We try and set expectations in a really clear way. And the other thing too, like this is a really interesting market. People are nervous, and you can see the drawdowns that are happening. To your point, we were talking before the conversation, like it creates buying opportunities if people look at it with a long lens. And that's what we try to do, is really look at the things that we're providing value for as the longer term time horizon. But what can you do in the meantime to solve a specific problem? The volatility that's happening, if you don't have the right tool to harness it, it can eat you alive. But if you have the right tools, and guess what? Options are basically a tool to go and harvest volatility. Option premiums go up when volatility goes up. So that's one thing that we're really trying to hone in on, to say, hey, our investors are looking for some cushion for that volatility, some downside protection. And so we're going out there to try and make sure that we're able to deliver that while we sort of navigate through this market. But, I think the name of the game is transparency, being open, and really being clear on like, what's the problem we're trying to solve, and really showcasing, hey, this is exactly how we do it. And we want to have a conversation with people to make sure that, that message is clear, because finance is hard and it's confusing, and it can be something that you can get wrapped around the axle a lot. And so we really want to try and like demystify as much as possible. And by the way, like, I came from the technology world, but I've learned so much coming into the finance world and like how to manage stuff. And so we, like, on our blog, on our website, we'll post articles about all these things that I've learned that hopefully I can translate to investors so that they can understand and make investment decisions for themselves. But if you don't have the secret decoder ring, sometimes it's hard to figure it out. And that's what we're trying to communicate to the market.
100%, because finance really is difficult. It really is. Many people, they'll put their money in one spot thinking it's going to grow, when really they didn't do the due diligence, or maybe it was a riskier asset and it goes the other way around, or maybe they just listened to their neighbor and they just jumped into it blindly. But thankfully, my viewers are not day traders. They're more conservative, dividend players, distribution players. And just to talk about more about the tax implications, you did mention that something changed or something was added into your ETS for when it comes to taxes.
Yeah, so we got our 2024 tax classifications. And so one of the big concerns is always when you have a sort of an income fund, a fund with an income component, how does that impact your taxes? And so in 2024, we were trying to manage the fund in a very tax efficient way, but we got sort of the final verdict from the auditors and the custodians and everything that said, yeah, here's how we classified the taxes. So it was awesome. We were really excited how it turned out. So we did 3 distributions in 2024. 17% of those distributions were classified as a qualified dividend, because we're actually taking SPY dividends and just distributing right out to investors. And then the remaining 83%, we were able to get it categorized as return of capital. And why that matters is return of capital has no income tax implication. And again, talk to your own accountants. I'm not a tax advisor, but they classified it as return of capital, which means, for me, I'm obviously an investor in the fund. We were able to pull out those distributions without actually having to pay additional taxes on the return of capital. And that's the goal of the fund this year too. We're able to find ways to offset the gains with, the lower basis acquisition of securities, in order to try and make it as tax efficient as possible. And we were super excited to see those classifications as they came in 2024. So when thinking about income funds, tax is a big deal, especially if you're doing it in an unqualified account. And then the other thing that's really important about income funds, to what we were just talking about before, there's always like this understanding with respect to, oh, well, it's yielding 20%. But what people don't understand sometimes is high yield does not necessarily mean high returns. And so we ended up writing a blog article about that, but really getting into the weeds, like crack open the hood of the ETFs that you're considering purchasing, understand where those distributions coming from. Is it capital growth? Is it return of capital, or is it a tax efficient version of that? Or is it truly coming from the income strategies that are helping get those distributions out there, to understand if it's a fit for you or not? And it's hard because a lot of times we get stuck on one number or another, but there's a lot of details at one level in that are really, really worth understanding in order to make the right decision.
Okay, I have to say, wow, 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 because now I am going to start dissecting my ETFs because, when you think of dividends, you're pretty much thinking, oh, it's coming from the profits or it's coming from the capital gains, but it can come from who knows where. As long if you don't know where it's coming from, it could probably ding you later. But that's actually a really good point. So my viewers, I'm going to be doing this later today. Please look at your ETFs, look at the fine print, look at the details. Sai, now let's talk more about a business side. So what is a business problem in fintech that no one is tackling and should be? And a second part to that is, what is a fintech trend that you think is completely overhyped? Because everybody's doing everything. You have mutual bond companies jumping into fintech. You have, everything. Everyone's just trying to do everything. So what do you think is something that should be tackled and something that is overhyped?
One thing actually that's really interesting. So to our point of what we're just discussing, how do you as an investor find solutions, places where you want to invest that are appropriate for you? And I think, finding like a really high quality, maybe scalable is a better way to say it, but it could be a fintech implementation of getting people connected to products that can be really beneficial for them. So like if I could go to a service and be like, hey, here are my goals. Here are the things that are really, really important to me, but I don't know the universe of ways that I can actually accomplish it. Getting that match would be really, really valuable, and vice versa. If I'm a product provider, I want to find, I'm here. I don't want to change anybody's mind. I'm just here to be like, hey, this is what value that there is. And if you happen to match with that, this is something to potentially consider. Finding a way to get those two sides connected, I think, would be a really valuable service for the industry. Things that are overhyped, I think it's funny. People are talking about AI all the time, but there's two sides of it. There's AI developers and creators, and then there's AI consumers and users. I think this audience of developers and creators is very, 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 very small. But the overhype happens when AI consumers are putting it in their businesses and claiming that they're the AI developer. So that's where you
Oh.
start to see a little bit of the overhype happen. I think, by the way, there's huge value over here. I just think the claim that you're necessarily the developer of the AI when you're not, that's where I see some of the overhype. But either way, both sides, huge value. Just call it how it is. We're an AI user. I don't develop models, but we take the data and use the AI in order to deliver value to investors. There's a very small sliver of developers that are the ones that actually build it. That's I think the misnomer where you start to see some of the hype get conflate the two sides.
That is a really good point because when you're thinking about it, how many people can actually develop compared to how many people can actually use, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like someone who can build the roads, build a city, and then the ones who actually just live in the city. And that's actually a really good point. And I think I talked to somebody as well a few weeks ago when we're talking about XRP, the crypto, and they said that XRP is not the product. Like, you're not going to use XRP for things. It's more of XRP is developing the ecosystem. It's developing the transaction speed, the infrastructure, and then you can use other cryptos on top of XRP. So I'm
Mm.
still new to that, but from what I understood, that's what I got from it. And so now continue with AI. Do you think AI can actually help prevent financial fraud more effectively than traditional methods? Because the traditional method is humans going in, figuring things out, takes days, weeks, years, but AI can probably detect it, especially with smart contracts and so on. So do you think AI can be very efficient when it comes to fraudulent activity in finance?
I think even further than that, I think if AI isn't being applied to that use case, then we're going to be in trouble.
Mm.
Um, when it comes to security, when it comes to fraud prevention, it's an arms race. And guess who is using AI in order to sort of be on the wrong side of that? It's the people that are trying to use AI in order to get access to stuff that they shouldn't. And so if we're not using every tool to also continue to defend it, we're going to get overrun. So that's going to be a critical piece that we start to develop and evolve much more quickly when it comes down to cybersecurity, and AI is going to be a tremendous piece of it. Amazing use case, but it has to happen, because if we fall behind on the security side, then the fraud side is going to win.
It's just like the previous interview we had when we were talking about like a war, right? It's like competing, the good guys versus the bad guys when it comes to technology developing. You know, the bad guys might have the technology here, the good guys have to either match it or even go further above it. Okay, so that's good because you have to trust AI when it comes to how the speed and the efficiency. And so what do you think the next big trend in fintech is? Of course, we're dealing with finance, AI, and so on. But do you think that fintech is going to maybe positively affect other sectors that are not financial? I know it says finance technology, but can it benefit other sectors as well?
I think so. I think I'd love to look at it from the flip side. So, like as an engineer, I used to love solutions, right? So I'd build solutions and then I'd run around looking for a problem to solve. But I learned the hard way that it's a tough thing to do when you go solution first. And in my mind, AI is a solution. So flipping it, what are the biggest problems that exist with respect to either personal finance, corporate finance, security, access? That's the place where I like to start. And by the way, there is a use case for AI in every single one of those. So like, I'd flip it back to you to say, like, what are the things that your viewers are talking about that's most important to them and the biggest challenges that they have? And then we can think through the use case of, oh, this is the process today. Humans are doing it, or it's traditional automation. Here's where AI can create an exponential impact on that area that this audience really, really cares about.
That's a good point because I mean, at this point, AI is like a web. It's legs and fingers are everywhere in every sector, and it has to be. It's mandatory, I would say. I think they should start legislating AI into everything, just for consumer protection, institutional protection, and so on. So, what is your long term vision for Tapp Alpha? I know you are going to introduce this new fund once T Spy hits 50 million in augmented management, but I think that's going to happen within weeks, maybe in a month, very, very soon. And TDAQ is going to
I
be
love
coming
your
out.
optimism.
Who knows? Maybe after this interview, it gets there. And I know TDAQ, which follows the NASDAQ. And I mean, the NASDAQ is, you got the MAG 7, you got all these amazing tech companies. What maybe something down the pipeline? You don't have to reveal it. I know usually these things are kind of kept a little down low, but are you maybe going to expand internationally, maybe start looking at international indexes? Where do you see Tapp Alpha in the next near future?
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And like I said, we're transparent. So I think there's kind of two sides of the business. Side one is the ETF side. So T-SPY, TDAC, we talked about T-Rus, so same strategy on the Russell, but then also some other solutions. So you mentioned Mag 7. Like, what's really cool about, I think, the platform and the method, we're proving its effectiveness now with T-SPY, but then sky's the limit on what we can do beyond it. So I'm all ears for people, on other securities that this strategy kind of makes sense. But that's the ETF side. So we have the 2 to 3 to start, and then we're going to start exploring other areas of ETFs to issue using a similar strategy. The second half of the business is, how do we create tools that take this strategy and potentially others and make it usable for larger audiences. And so one example is like covered calls is where we started. Covered calls are available for advisors, but they're available for advisors at like these big, high net worth wealth managers. So we want to democratize that so that wealth managers that don't have a $20 million minimum for your high net worth individuals can do strategies that the high net worth people have access to. So democratizing that for wealth managers, I think, is a thing that I'd love to do in the long term, where we take the tools that we have, that we've proven. So we want to democratize that for advisors to use a similar strategy on any security. But then we also, potentially, we don't know yet, but making similar tools available even for individual investors to use. Like, it's the same idea of T-Spy, but do it on any security that you feel is a good fit. So the goal is, again, just giving access and making things more usable that otherwise would be inaccessible. That's the motif of everything that we want to do. And technology is a really, really powerful way to do that.
I honestly love that. I love that your strategy and your technology can be applied to any security for any individual wealth management or even just a smaller type of firms. Now that crypto's kind of adopted, we got Donald Trump talking about the Bitcoin reserve. We got other countries, China's making one as well. Where is Tapp Alpha stance? Maybe you can use these strategies for maybe a crypto ETF. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a possibility. I think I would probably call Matt at Tuttle and say, "Hey, Matt, if you want to do that, we can help you support it and implement it with the underlying tech to make it easier for you." But for Tapp Alpha and sort of our target, probably not yet, not now. And again, it's more of the conservative to moderate audience that we really interact with. But who's to say, like, as crypto becomes more and more widely adopted, I mean, this administration really made it much more mainstream with the policies that they've had. Maybe in time that changes, but for now, conservative to moderate is sort of the game we play. But it's fun to watch the crypto folks and the growth that's there. So have at it. But right now, we're staying focused where we are.
Yeah, I mean, crypto is still so risky. I mean, just a month ago, it was over 90, it was over 100. Now it's barely trying to struggle around the between 75 and 80 range. So I definitely understand the risk value, and it is highly risky, especially when you're reading those Reddit forums. Everyone's, crying, we bought at the top. We thought it was going to get to 200. But yeah, and I think it is better to be safe than sorry. As Warren Buffett, he's sitting on almost 350 billion, still not investing in crypto. I actually saw an interview he had the other day, and he said, if you gave me, a plot of land, I'll buy for 25 million. If you gave me even one house, I'll buy for 25 million. But if you gave me all the Bitcoin, I won't buy for $25. So it's that very conservative view. And personally, I just got into crypto maybe just a couple of years ago. I was kind of hesitant, skeptical as well. So again, it's better to be safe than sorry. So Sai, you have given us some amazing,
But to
amazing
your
info.
point, like
Yes.
sorry, the last thing I want to say on the crypto side too, but it's really interesting. So like the crypto movement has really got me thinking, because you think what's real with currency, right? So what's really the difference between a fiat currency and crypto? Well, you get the power of the economists behind the fiat, but like it really sheds a light that money is a concept, it's an idea. And
It's whatever
so you
value we
want
give
money.
it.
Exactly right. And so from that perspective, I think there's a lot of credibility to the idea of crypto. So again, totally behind it. It's so interesting to see it. But it's one of those things. I'll be a later adopter to it because, to your point, like that up and down roller coaster for me isn't worth the sleep that I would lose over it, and that's just how I'm built. But for other people where they are comfortable with that, I mean, it's a really cool movement that we're seeing happen from the ground up.
It is cool. And that's why even a lot of 401ks and pensioners and institutions like that are highly staying away from crypto because, someone retires and crypto's at its lowest peak. I mean, you just kind of lost everything you've been adding into every year. So yeah, it's absolutely correct. And it is fun to watch on the sidelines. Like I'm not heavy into it. I do have a few dollars in there, but I know a lot of people who are so heavy into it that it's like they have to win, they have to get a positive out of this or everything is gone. But no, you make a really good point when it comes to crypto. Let it stabilize, let it consolidate, let it come out with some true tried tested and facts from it, and then maybe it can be something you look into because it could be the future, right? Or it could be something that was a trend for 10, 15 years and then it just kind of goes away. But I do think AI, fintech, DeFi, the more tangible things, I think those are where the market is going to be going and where society will be going. And so honestly, Sai, every time I have you on, it's always a learning curve for me. My viewers, they love everything you say. But before we end off, is there anything else that you would like to mention? Any significant events coming up? I know you gave us an exclusive on the TDAQ TDAQ, following the NASDAQ. That is something I'm definitely going to be looking into. But is there anything coming up maybe with Tapp Alpha, maybe an event that maybe viewers can check out or look into?
I'm headed to Exchange, which is an ETF conference in Las Vegas. So if anybody happens to be in the neighborhood, would love to meet you and chat with you while I'm down there. And then the biggest thing is just, keep your ears peeled with these markets and the volatility, because you'll see the ups and the downs, and just keep in the back of your mind, okay, volatility can be a scary thing, or if you have the right tools for it, and you're able to harness it, it can be a really good thing. And so that's where I think the balance where we're trying to walk. It's a conservative to moderate way to take advantage and harvest the volatility that's out there. And having that as an added feature in my portfolio helps me sleep a little better at night, especially like to your point, you've got time on your side. If you have time on your side, just always keep the long view, because these markets are always going to be up and they'll be down. But if you have time, use it, and that's where you can actually set the outcomes that you want. But while it is a nerve-wracking and uncertain time, it's still really interesting and fun to be a part of the industry. And so, super happy to be here, and it's been great meeting you, and appreciate you having me on.
No problem at all. And as I said, every time you come on, my viewers learn something, I learn something. And it's always fun to be talking with you because you're a person of wealth of knowledge. And I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, I'm gonna see that TDAQ pop up, and I'm like, there it is, there it is. So Sai, thank you so much for being here with me today. I know you're busy, with your funds and of course analyzing the current market that's going on. And if you ever need anything, you can always email me and my viewers. I'm going to have all of Sai and Tapp Alpha's information in the description box. Please check them out on X, on any other platform that they have, their website. And of course, you said you had a newsletter as well, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Perfect. So check out their newsletter, get updated. And as I said, if you love tech, you love the NASDAQ, hey, TDAQ, harness those premiums, get those generational income, and hey, you can't really go wrong with it. It's an index, right? As they say, invest in the index, but this time around, make more money from it. So, Sai, thank you so much. And my viewers, subscribe and like. And until the next time, stay ranting.